Hello, my name is Mackie, and I welcomed you back to the channel after, let me just check my notes, 6 weeks? Yeah, there's a lot of catching up to do and a lot of explaining. Now, the explanation is pretty much simple. I just visit my grandmother's in Nantucket, Massachusetts, and I experienced my very first snow day twice. And we went out, we went out to church, we went off island, we eat some food. We had my mom, my grandmother, and I a wonderful time. And you know, it's been an experience for me. Someone from Jamaica who has never experienced anything of like cold winter and snow and all this kind of stuff. And for this to happen pretty much early, but for me to get that experience is it's night and day. Like I am wearing marinas right now, and the place I got there, I have to wear like long sleeves and long pants, long pajamas, all kinds of stuff, coats and hats and everything like that. The whole experience was like night and day. I wish I can just do a videos on it, but I have to respect my neighbors, of course. I don't want to get any complaints about it. Shout out to the neighbors, of course. So that is the reason why I haven't been there for 6 weeks. I'm not. I've already made my excuses. I've enjoyed myself, and maybe the fact that I haven't done any videos in a while, short form or long form, just makes you feel like, okay, maybe rethink, you know, your form, and maybe if you want to come back, you have to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to do something different. I'm going to do the same things I've already done, which is to talk about League and everything else and see where it goes. So there's that. Like and subscribe if you have to. It's the same thing that many people doing, and this will keep the channel going. We're close to 30 subscribers, which is that number has been stuck around there for a long time. I don't feel bad. I don't feel really bad about it. I'm not a numbers guy. Well, I'm more in a numbers guy, but I'm not into that kind of numbers. So, if you could subscribe to this channel, appreciate it. Thank you very much. And now, it is time for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's our first stand catch up. And, of course, a first stand review of all the teams that got there. So it's basically like a review of first stand and a review of all the teams. And we're going to go from the team that's been eliminated to probably the last team standing. Which is, to be fair, a shocker to absolutely no one in particular. Now, of course, I need to talk about the tournament, the first 10 tournament. Anybody who lives under a rock mean that it's a best of 3 format, single round robin, top 4 teams go through, best of 5, whole thing fearless. And it reminds me of like a movie in which it has some decent parts. It has some moments that will wow you. It has some moments that feels like it's a decent movie, but it's kind of forgettable, and you only watch it once and just never going to watch it again. That is pretty much the perception that many people, including myself, have in First Stand. Now, in a vacuum, for your fearless draft extravaganza thing, this tournament is fine. And I said kudos to Riot for actually doing this and trying to showcase what Fearless Draft is all about in an international setting. The problem is that we only sent 5 teams. And let's be honest, it's not just five teams that made it there. It's the names of those five teams that did not really put, well, I'm not saying much butts in their seat, but did not, like, how do I say, did not make you feel like you're going to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning, which is, by the way, in Korea, of all places, and watch it. Like, listen to the names. Hana Life Esports, K Corp, CFO, Top Esports, and maybe Team Liquid, of course, because of their popularity. Of course, they are a popular team, but no T1, no G2, no nothing. It's not even like, I'm not saying RNG couldn't make it, but no really popular teams with popular faces. If Faker, listen, let's be honest. If Faker would have played in first stand, holy cow, this tournament would have like much more weight in it. But that didn't happen. And the format was kind of eh. The fact that like Team Liquid actually got eliminated, even though Top Esports played like absolute garbage, which I'm gonna get to later on. I will get to it later on. And the whole tiebreaker situation was weird. It almost felt like Hana Life Esports would have won this thing by a country mile. They've won. Listen, spoiler right now. Hana Life Esports won the whole thing, and it didn't feel close. I mean, they lost a couple of games, sure, but it almost felt like take away game one's loss to K Corp in the final. I just don't have no feeling of like Hana Life Esports losing that final. I have no no like sense of surprise or shock that if Hana Life is going to win. Hana Life was any team from the LCK could have won this tournament outright. They could have just sent T1 or DK or Gen G, and I think First Stand would have won by any other LCK team. Which is like, I'm not. Listen, that's not to say that the other teams put up some decent performances. It's just that other than Top Esports, neither of these teams have any other shot. And once Top Esports looked like absolute crap, and they beat the absolute crap out of Top Esports, it was a foregone conclusion. It almost feels like right now the same way with the Premier League. It's like it's over. The whole thing is kind of over right now. It's what's the point of watching all of this when we know who's gonna win, when we know who's going to win the whole thing. So that makes the tournament feels less and less important. But hey, at least there's a cool $1 million in prizes. Well, actually, more than 350,000 to like Hana Life Esports for winning it. So I guess that's kind of cool. And the second thing about it, that's this whole thing is in LOL Park. Oh my goodness, Jesus Christ! How? Listen, I understand Riot's ability to be like Krusty Krab and be cheap and all this kind of stuff. But please, for the love of God, by the way, the First Stand thing is going to be happening for the next 2 years. So they got that going. But if you wanted to host an event, I understand you cannot do this in a big stadium like, a baseball stadium or Madison Square Garden. I understand those days are over. Those days of hosting big events in big stadiums are over. We know that. Esports, it's in the regression period. Yes, the Saudi money is there, and yes, all these things happening, but it's in the regression mean that we cannot host big events in big stages. It can be happening in Worlds, of course, but we cannot hold that. But if you're going to host at least an international tournament, please, for the love of God, do not host it in LOL Park or LEC Studios or like the LTA Studios or any studio. Like, if you're going to do it like a 5,000 seat stadium or a 5,000 seat theater or something. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world. You can make that small stadium atmosphere feel huge. And watching all these games from LOL Park just makes you feel like, really? An international tournament in a studio that LCK has to play like a gazillion games, of course. And also where the grand final of the LCK Cup took place. So it's like Hana Life Esports didn't have to move much throughout the entirety for the last 3 months. Hana Life Esports have not moved away from a LOL park since the grand final of last year. They have been camped there for like 3 months. It's pretty much obvious that they won the whole thing, but also it's pretty much like it's, not a cool atmosphere to host big events. That is not a knock on Koreans. One of the events we hosted, that is not a knock on anybody. It's just that hosting an event in a capacity like this, it just not doesn't felt right. It don't feel right. It doesn't feel like an international tournament. It feels nothing. I don't feel nothing after watching the whole thing. Like after MSI and after Worlds, at least you could just say I feel something. I feel like, oh my goodness, wow, that was an incredible experience. For this, I just don't feel anything. It's like 1 week of League of Legends, and that's it. That's just pretty much it. We move on. We move on to spring, and I think the 1 week thing is fine. I think they should tweak the format just a little bit, and add more teams. And I know the complaint will be like, I don't know if adding more teams will be good enough. Well, geez. Look at MSI and look at Worlds. Look at the addition of the teams, look at the format, and tell me if these tournaments matter. I mean, those two tournaments look mattering right now, especially the next tournament, which, by the way, takes place in Vancouver, of all places. And I mean all places because of the hoopla between US and Canada, all this kind of stuff. But the MSI tournament and the Worlds tournament is far more superior than the first 10 tournament. It's far more superior. And I understand wanting to add another international tournament to their calendar to just fill in the time, which I totally understand. I give them credit. I totally understand that. But if you wanted to make this international tournament, the more is better. And I get capitalism and all that kind of stuff. We don't want more things. We just want less of these things. Well, not in this universe, not in this world. Sometimes people wanted more of so many things in life. And if we want to get like 2 LCK teams, 2 LPL teams, 2 LEC teams, then so be it. So be it. And if it's gonna make the tournament decent, that's fine by me. They're probably gonna figure this out next year, But if they don't, it's going to be treated the same way like past MSI before 2023. I mean, before 2023. And I just say the MSI was kind of cool back in 2015 when EDG won it. And then it's kind of okay-ish. And then probably, let's say, 2020, 2022 was when it's lost its luster. That's when it kind of lost its luster for me. And I think First Stand is kind of like in that range of like 2020 to 2022 MSI when it just felt nothing. It felt nothing to me. So I guess you could say that this tournament needs a lot of more work, which is okay. New tournament and anything, it's fine. I'll give them that. I think the opening is just like Jesus Christ. You thought the acting is horrible. I seen decent acting from B movies than what they did. Not getting, the players did not write themselves. It's more like writers just write it off their script and just hand it off to the players because these people are, and I'm going to be brutally honest, not have the personalities to drive casual fans forward. I'm just saying, even the Chinese and Koreans can know that. But my God, this is just feel generic. This just feel like, it feels kind of generic to me. It feels, the scripting is kind of generic. The opening is kind of horrible. And oh my goodness, let's not forget the scoreboard. Oh God almighty. Woo! So I think there's a lot of people reacting to the new scoreboard thing. That we used to have the scoreboard like up here with the sides and the goalie down there and all this kind of stuff. To have that so they have the scoreboard up there. They have the scoreboard, the kills, and the the goal lead at the sides. And then you got like interchangeable areas in which you see like how many dragons are taken, feats of strength, all those kind of stuff. And then you got that down there, you still have the teams, but you see like the items, the flash, the flash and the other summoners. And then there was like goal leads and all that kind of stuff. And it almost feels like watching a football game from like the 2000s or such. And for some people, people are not interested in like, you know, how many grubs were killed, how many dragons are there. Sometimes simplicity works. And I feel like I understand trying to do something new, trying to do something fresh for a tournament like this, and I can understand that. I mean, if you see that the overlay for League of Legends being worked too much, I can totally understand trying to change, but it just feels like for some people, of course, who reacted to it, it feels a little too much for them. It feels overwhelming. As a person who has slightly autistical nature, it feels too much. It just feels like, okay, how many dragons did they kill? Oh wait, how many grubs did they have? Did they have Feast of Strength? What was the goal lead or something? And the items and the flash, it's like they're just a little bit too much. And it's like all in your face so many times. It's like right in your face all the time. Like boom, boom, flash, boom, big like dragon thing, boom, right in your face. And it's like you look at the LEC and you look at the LTA. It's just like they don't give you too much information. They just give you the simple facts. And I think simplicity is more important than just complexity. I think they try to do aesthetically pleasing instead of visually well done or something. And maybe that's a little bit of overstretched, but to me, I feel like the new overlay for the tournament of first stand is it's a little bit much. I can say it's a little bit too much for some streamers and some people, casual fans alike. That's pretty much my 2 cents about it. So what else? The trophy looks okay. I like that trophy. It's not as big as the Worlds. It's not as decent as MSI, but I think the trophy is okay. I like the trophy. No problem with that. Um, I Let me just see what else. Oh, Fearless. My goodness. Okay, so I do have a lot of thoughts about Fearless, and by the way, if you are don't even notice, they're keeping Fearless for the entirety of the year. And when I mean entirety of the year, I mean spring, MSI, summer, worlds, even world championships, the biggest tournament of them all, with a $5 million prize move. Can you believe it? They are going to be doing Fearless, and my thoughts it's a little bit mixed. Like, okay, let me just put this out there. I understand diversity of champions. I understand that, we wanted to see different players play different champions and test their flexibility, their strengths and weaknesses about it. And for fans, they do not want to see like the same old Azir Corki matchup over and over and over again to the point of like it's stressing people out. And that's totally understandable. That's why the Fearless were put into the first place. To trying to like make sure that we don't have this cold situation of the same old matchups ever again. In case anybody don't know about Fearless, once you pick a champion for this particular series, that champion will not be picked for the entirety of the series. So once you pick like Corki, that Corki is no longer there for the rest of the series. And by the time Game 5 will reach, it will be like 50 champions. And then you would go way deep in the pool. Like way deep. And, testing their flexibility, testing their pool and all kind of stuff, testing all those kind of stuff. Oh, I can understand why. Flexibility, adaptability, all this kind of stuff, see which teams have like 4 or 5 good champions on their repertoire that they can be played with the composition that they have, with the, with the teamwork that they have on other teammates, and seeing that happening, it's great. It's fine. So I can understand why the overwhelming positivity happened, and Keijo's reaction, of course, is he likes it. Everybody likes it. But there is a flaw to all of this, and this is the whole thing of careful what you wish for because you might just gonna happen, or this whole thing could age so poorly within 6 months. I want to see the best players play the best champions. I want to see you know, Faker playing Galio 5 times in 2017, or Gala playing Kaiser 5 times when they won MSI 3-2 in 2021. I want to see the best players play the best champions. And I get, repetitiveness, and you're tired of the same old champions being played and all this kind of stuff, and it's stressful, and I don't like that, but no, I want to see Trophy play Azir. I want to see Faker plays Galio. I want to see best players play best. Nobody complained, at Worlds when Galio being picked and all that kind of stuff. Nobody complained about that. Nobody complained when all these champions that some players are really good at, being picked and actually being good at it and utilize it to their advantage. When I say a Faker on that Galio in game 5, I think it was game 5. It was something cool. It was something unique and all this kind of stuff. And if this was happening in the fearless format, my goodness, it will not. It will be pinched. It will not be sustainable, all that kind of stuff. So while diversity and fearless draft is giving us something that we get a different game every single time, and all the diversity, it just makes you feel do I it doesn't make it look great on Riot's part. It almost feels like Riot is just giving up on the game and just saying, we don't know what to do with this, the balancing is just too much, here's Fearless, have it, let it go. And hey, listen, I'm not gonna call them lazy, okay? These guys are hardworking. They probably have a paycheck. They have families. They have food on their table, clothes on their feet. They're trying to do everything they can to make sure their kids sent to school happy and all that kind of stuff. I'm not calling them lazy, but I'm just feeling it almost feels like Riot doesn't know what to do with the game anymore. And as someone who has watched League of Legends for a few years, that makes me feel a little bit sad. Because for all the crap that Riot got, and trust me, there is a lot of crap that Riot gets few times. Don't get me started about the whole Saudi thing. They're trying their best to make the game sustainable for all this kind of stuff. Look at TFT right now, which, by the way, in a couple of hours they'll have to release their new set, and they have to deal with so many complaints about the balance of the game, about this champion being broken, and that champion being broken, and all this kind of stuff, bugs and all this kind of stuff, and it wears these people down. I mean, they have to constantly have to go right to the cameras and tell them about all these balance changes to the point of exhaustion. While I was not here at the time, and they removed Hexgate, and people were up in arms about it, literally up in arms about it, and not up in arms as okay, we're frustrated, but fine, it is what it is. No, they were literally pitchforks and knives, sharpening themselves to just ready to cut through Riot like cake. And then Riot have no other choice but to bend the knee to the will of the people and bring back Hexgate. So it almost feels I'm not saying I feel bad for Riot because Riot is a cult of personality kind of thing. But to the people there who have to try to balance and do skins and do all these kind of work to satisfy the plebs and the whales as some people and the casual fandom, it has to wear on them. It has to totally wear on them. And with Valorant becoming the new darling of Riot Games with good mechanics and now first-person shooters becoming a thing, look at CSGO, CS2, in the last couple of months, it almost feels like Riot Games is just gonna give up. And the only saving grace they have to do right now is to trying to do something that will adapt, overcome all these kind of things and just use it as a bandage. Like, I listened to a podcast on EuroLeague with Rich, Nightmare, and Kira about, there's brand jungle that used to be there. There is rail jungle that used to be there. And these are like cool little quirks that you never get to see that in the game. And it's not a fearless thing. It's more like a player playing a certain champ figure out that they can do that, and then once that person do that, everybody follows, and it become a meta, and it's cool and all that kind of stuff. And with fearless, it feels like, yes, you got a different game, but it just feels like it limits some of the teams, performances, some of the teams' willingness to work around these champions, around these compositions, and just make them feel good. Like, if you're BLG right now, you are absolutely screwed knowing that fearless is going to be a thing. If you're LTA right now, and unless LTA changed their format to a best of 3, and I'm recording this before the whole thing, but we don't know what is going to happen. But if you're LTA and you decided that let's just do best of 1s, like, come on! Have you seen Team Liquid in first stand? I don't think best of 1's going to work at all. In fact, I think best of 1s, as we all know, is officially dead, buried, and never to be resurrected ever again. So what's the point of having the best of 1s in a tournament that is now giving you chance to adjust and adapt going into international events, knowing that everything else is fearless right now, everything else. So it puts a lot of strain on the balance team. Well, I don't think fearless put a strain on the balance team. It puts a strain on the players, the coaches, and even the fans right now. And while this announcement of fearless being good is kind of like, it's positive right now, and we're only 3 months into the year, I wonder when, the people will be like, I just don't like this. It doesn't make League fun. I stopped watching League, all this kind of stuff. I mean, Yamato Cannon, who, by the way, a former coach of K Corp, told me that the pro play is just not as sustainable. It's not great. It's not clean in most cases. Because, of course, some of the players are not familiar with the champions. Like, Yike have to play, facilitator for, the rest of the series. And it's not his style. He used to be a carry jungler, but now he's got, trying to become carry jungler into a facilitator, and it changes his style of play. Now, does it, make all the games fun? Does it make viewership great? Well, yeah, sure, it does give the viewership some boost. I mean, look at the finals. I mean, the finals were 1 million views, but that's more of K Corp fandom rather than the whole Fearless thing as well. Look at me, guys, 1 million views. That means Fearless is working. I don't think numbers mean anything right now. You can put the 2 worst teams in MLB and have bad viewership, and you could say that I don't think viewership matters to them. I just don't feel like it matters to them at all. I just feel like, they wanted to go they just wanted to do what the people said. And after bending the knee when it comes to Hexgate, they're now literally bending the knee to the fans that they wanted Fearless for the rest of the season. And they got their wish. And you know what? I congratulate some of the people they do. But I'm more on the fence about it. I'm more into it's okay, but it's never going to be a forever thing. And we know, and once 2026 comes, who knows? But if this doesn't work in 2025, if the complaints and the the gameplay is not sustainable and all kind of stuff, then I just feel I think Fearless is going to be a 1-year thing, and they're just going back to doing something. Now, do I have ideas of how to do this? Well, since Riot cannot balance the game, how about you do a pool of champions on each role, and that based on the meta, 5-10 sets of champions, 10 top lane, 10 jungle, 10 mid, 10 AD carries, 10 supports, and you play around that meta, you play around that style, and that will save you what, thousands of hours of balancing and all kind of stuff. Because right now, the champions that are not getting much love are getting absolutely like being abused. Like I know Team was not playing. God knows Team was not gonna play, but um, you know, Zeri, she's not looking great. Aurora not looking fine in the meta, of course. As they're getting nerfed to the ground. So it's like, if I get Fearless is trying to be adaptable, but if you wanted to save yourself some time, you could just make a pool a la Overwatch League years ago, and just do a pool of champions based on the meta, and then players will play with it. But I don't know. Maybe this is just like one of those podcast talking points that many people will talk about when it comes to Fearless. It's a really controversial topic. Well, not controversial. It's more like, you either like Fearless for the adaptability or you don't because it doesn't make League great. It makes League kind of feels like they're giving up. Like the developers just give up the game. So, that is that. So, with all that being done, I think it's time for me to talk about the teams that involved. And, of course, my thoughts about them, my overall performances, and where will we go from here as the spring season, as I'm recording, it's kind of like less than a few days away with the LPL starting, and then the LEC, and then the LTA, and then the LCK, and then, all these things will, we go again. Let's talk Team Liquid. Yon, he's a godsend. He's an absolute godsend. He and Corey JJ are kind of like, the two wonderfully incredible players. I mean, Yon looks unbelievably, man. He looks great in the LTA tournament. He looks great, during first stand. He and Corey JJ are kind of like the shining light of this tournament. But I think mostly Yon is most of the shining light. The rest of the team, man, is just criminally bad. Like Impact right now, it just feels like a dog that needs to be put down. Like, we love Impact. He's been a steady top laner for a couple of years. But his performances are just so bad right now that everybody knew that his time will come. I don't think he wanted that to happen, but we have eyes, man. We have eyes. We have community perceptions. We have Reddit. We have TikTok and all kind of stuff. The perception is right now, to many people, it's like he's just not the same dominant top laner years ago. And just remember, guys, the guy played for that T1 team that won their first Worlds back in 2014. Yeah, 2014. No, wait, it was Fnatic first. Season 2 Worlds. He was there for Season 2 Worlds. I'm just trying to get my league brain up and running. It's been a long time. So he has been there for the longest time. And the fact that he has been steady, consistent, been an MVP kind of performer, actually won an MVP last year. It just goes to show you how long and how well Impact has been. But in terms of his gameplay, and the fact that all the top laners are beating him up, it just makes it feel like it's going to be... I'm not saying that Impact should retire right now. I'm just saying that how many bad performances would it take for the Team Liquid staff and the org to realize we cannot just do this anymore. We just have to put you down. And it hurts, but it's League of Legends, man. It's esports. What are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Umti looks... Yeah, Umti, he is just... He's bad. Yeah, he and APA are just... I think APA is fine, I guess. APA is fine, I guess. Umti is just not it, man. Like, Umti is the kind of person that is going to give the other teams some good vibes. Like, just remember, just by the way, the LTA bracket, which by the way, goodness gracious of, this is it's the worst format bracket I have ever seen in my entire life. Not only the LTA South, by the way, former CB Law, by the way, the LTA South not only got absolutely slaughtered, but there's no like double elimination or anything, and one best of 5 in the finals, in which TL got crushed the ever living soul of 100 Thieves. In which, like, to be honest, 100 Thieves were never supposed to be in the tournament in the first place. So, yeah. And the one game that Team Liquid lost to Astral Gaming, of course, of all teams, they look bad. And I think this tournament, like, further continues that. Now, I get the whole thing of, like, let's stick together, continuity kind of things, but it did not work for FlyQuest, and it's certainly not working for Team Liquid. And right now, you're thinking to yourself, do you have to make some changes? I don't think so, because spring is kind of close to it right now. But any more power performances from your Impact and your Umti just makes you feel like you gotta have to change your whole team. You gotta have to change your top, your mid, your jungle as soon as possible. Or else this is going to get really bad really quick. And if I were Yon right now, I just have to feel like, how many good I need to play really good in order for me to get out of here. Because I cannot play with this team, man. I just cannot play with a team that plays so badly while I'm performing like God tier right now. That's just horribly sad. And also, APA, my goodness, APA, you talk a lot of talk, and you do a lot of things, which, by the way, for content stake, for hype, for all this kind of stuff, it's great, you know? Personality-wise and all kind of stuff, pumping your chest, saying, NA is better than EU, baby, woohoo! And then for them to get absolutely humbled. And it's not just top esports humbling you. It's CFO! It's the Flying Oysters! Now we'll talk about Flying Oysters later on, but my goodness! To get humbled like that is just like, win first, then talk your crap later. Because if you do like the other way around, not only you get humbled, but you get absolutely destroyed by everybody in the internet. And you know that thing, man. Internet is forever. The internet is forever, man. And I understand APA from a personality standpoint. He needs to trash talk and do all that kind of stuff and just like put in his place. That's cool and all, but if you can't back up your game, you know, and I understand doing that, and you beat K Corp, but K Corp in finals, so and you're dead last, so I don't think you have a leg to stand on at all, and that's just not it, man. So that's end of Team Liquid. Top esports. Oh, Jesus, top esports. I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we're going to talk about that I'm going to make a scripted documentary about your team. And you know what? I think, you know, after all these years, you deserve a documentary about how great your team is, how amazing you are, how wonderfully legendary you are. And by the way, I'm not done yet, but it'll come soon. It will come soon. And we will talk about, I will talk about how good your team is. The bad news is, you're garbage. And I mean garbage. Trash. Gutter trash. Feces. My goodness, top esports look awful. Like, congratulations, you actually made semifinals on your merit. But the way you play, like Jackie Love, like he had 2.8 deaths, by the way, during the whole LPL thing, which is great. And also, congratulations, finally winning your first LPL titles in years, which is something amazing, of course. You finally overcome your jinx. You finally get the monkey off your back, and you played decently well, of course. But my God, the difference between Jackie Love in LPL and Jackie Love in First Stand is just night and day. The whole team look awful. Like Cream. Like, I'm sorry, Cream, but the whole, he's just a rookie, he hasn't played international experience, that excuse is no longer there. You have played now, what? 3 international events in a row? And you have not shown me anything to make you feel like you're the best player on this team? Like, I just, my goodness. 369 was fine, but there's just nothing about it. And once it got, and, you know, losing to On Life Esports and get swept like that, it's just like, I wasn't surprised about it. Top Esports were awful. And I will break into the top esports and how it impact LPL right now. But if you're a team, but they at top esports and Team Liquid are not helping their league be faithful at all. In the LTA right now is already getting a bad rap already for like merging the CB LOL or butchering the CB LOL and merging to them, making this one giant filler league of like, it's a minor region within a major region, of course. And LTA Seoul get absolutely clapped. The whole region, by the way, Brazil, Central America, and North America send in Team Liquid. And they look bad. And it's making the LTA kind of feels like, what's the point of watching the LTA when we know that one of our representatives is going to get absolutely beat? Like even like last year, I know we didn't got drawn, but FlyQuest actually putting up a decent series against Gen G makes me want to believe in the LCS. And that's the thing. The LCS was their thing, and for that to never happen, and now a new name, new teams, new format, and it's just the same old crap every year. It's just, it doesn't make sense at all. And for top esports part in the LPL, it's just, it just makes you feel like if you're the LPL fan, it's just like, oh my God, are we going to send top esports in international tournaments every single year and have them play like that? It's like, no, you don't. If you're a BLG, you must be feeling absolutely angry that this team is going to First Stand and not us. No. We're gonna put our foot down and just go out there. We're gonna make sure that we're gonna dominate and win this thing. Fearless or not, we're gonna dominate this thing. The problem is that your team is not capable of fearless, so kind of screwed there, of course. But I think the most important thing about the LPL right now is just they are the second best region with the third world problems. They don't have the English broadcast anymore. It's just only Initialize and Nymera, of course. Shout out to these guys. They're wonderful and hardworking. I love them. They are restricted by the government for a limited play time, of course. And this is now 4 international tournaments in a row in which the LCK have won international trophies. T1, Gen G and MSI last year, T1 at Worlds last year, and this year Honda Life Esports. And if you want to go further back, you know, T1 winning Worlds 2023. The last LPL team to win anything was like JDG in 2023 in London. Yes, it was Knight, by the way. So, news of LCK's might have been greatly exaggerated, but most importantly, the LPL is just not looking hot. And top esports performance is just not going to make any more waves, of course. Like, the 4 of the 5 matches in the first stand were all K Corp matches. And I can understand why. K Corp with the fan base, the hoopla and all kinds of stuff. Well, I'll get to them later. But it's not helping. This tournament performance is not helping the team at all. Not helping Jack and Love at any case. Not helping Tian. Not even helping Cream in his sense. The team looks awful. Gigantically awful. And I'm not sure if this is a team you wanted to trust to win anything ever again. Unless something miraculous happened to them. Which barely circumstantial because Fearless is going to be a thing. And I hope the meta might suit them. But unless that happens, then I just don't see top esports performing decently well in anything. They're just like a mat, a mat that people step on, every single time in order to get success. Top esports is kind of like the doormat of League of Legends. JDG and Weibo and T1 and even Honor Life Esports. They're kind of like, oh, top esports. Stepping on them like doormats, rubbing their feet, rubbing their feces on their feet, on the mat, and just walk into the door and claim their prize. And that's what they are right now. They're a doormat. They're a doormatting team. It doesn't matter how good they are in LPL, they always find a way to become not so great. And this first stand does not help their cause at all. Let's talk CFO and the LCP, which is the League of Championship Pacific. The tournament with GAM and Vikings and Talon and CFO, of course, being in there. I need, and I think the whole community of League of Legends fans needs to apologize to CFO. I think they need to apologize to the LCP because we were never familiar with your game or your league at all. And I think Nymera said that in the EuroLeague podcast that I listened to, that it ran the same time as like the LPL, of course. And to have that league compete with like the second best region in the world, it just feels minute. And they were doing it in the studio, they're having problems, tech problems, of course. And while they have decent players, like Doggo, who by the way, once upon a time used to play for PSG Talon when he was a replacement in MSI 2021 and blew the absolute doors out of everyone. And he has been in purgatory in the LPL. He's been in purgatory, but he came back. He put up some solid performances. Hancure, the new mid laner for CFO, he put up some decent performances. And CFO were unbelievably incredible. Like, I get, Honor Life Esports were the best team in the tournament and by far the best team in the tournament. But I think CFO has, show up and showcased that it's not just GAM or PSG Talon or soft Hawkbanks, from the LJL. And by the way, the LJL, PCS, and VCS got to merge into one league. But the point remains is that CFO can cook. This team in that region can cook. And I know this is more like a Riot thing to like, let's just make this. We are merging all these regions to make the LCP one of the fifth region. And I understand that. And I think we have treated the LCP and some of the teams as like the fifth region or the minor region for some cases. And Riot forced this hand to say that we're going to treat the LCP like a major region. And they play like a major region. And yes, they lost to like Hollow Life Esports, but let's be honest, everybody's losing on Esports at some point. And honestly, if you are a CFO fan or an LCP fan, this tournament is going to make everybody notice your region even more. And now it's like everybody's going to look at this region and just like, okay, guys, okay, let's not play around with this LCP team. That CFO team is going to be, is a dangerous team. This is a really dangerous team. A dark horse, a team that you do not want to play against in any certain senses. I know what you're thinking, like, but Akeem, top esports is from LBL and and CFO's like LCP, and so that means it's like different leagues, and like they're better than us and all kinds of stuff. I don't care. I don't care about your LPL affiliate saying our region is better, so we're supposed to win that thing. It doesn't matter. Like, you look at top esports and look at Team Illiquid, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're like the number one team from the biggest region ever. It just doesn't matter. It's 10 players, 10 champions in a rift, and we'll have to settle the score. Which one is better? I don't think, better regions means much. In fact, if I go into the power rankings, I don't think CFO gets much love from the power rankings as well, because they're treated like a minor region. Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't think they're a minor region anymore. I think they are in the seat of the table like every single team in league, and that performance deserves that honor. I think the LCP should be talked about even more. It should be treated even more, and maybe I should review the LCP even more in my videos more time. Maybe, but I feel like the LCP is now getting the respect it deserves. Something that they never have, like so many years ago. GAM Esports beat some pretty big regions. I mean, GAM, yes, with a bug, beat top esports a long time ago. CFO beat 100 Thieves. GAM beats Fnatic most of the times. This region can beat other teams, and yet we treated this thing like minor region status. Well, I'm saying no more. I say the stigma is over. I think the whole minor region stigma of the Pacific regions and all kinds of stuff is over. And I think this should be treated the same way as the other leagues. And CFO performance deserve that. And also that region is it's now stacked. You got Vikings, you got Talon, you got GAM, you got CFO, you got Team Secret Wales. Goddamn LCP, that's a hot region to watch. That's a really hot region to watch. And the fact that the MSI is gonna stand 2 teams there, it's it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be a really fun region to watch. Let's go to K Corp and the LEC as a whole. I'm guilty of this. So while I was in vacation at that time, the Super Bowl was on, by the way. And the most luckiest thing that ever happened to me, that there was so much snow, by the way. It was a snow day. It was a snow day. The first time I get to witness a snow day at that time. And I was worried about the Super Bowl would not be on because of the snow and everybody else. But thank God it did. Thank God it did. Thank God I get to watch the game. Now, I know everybody watching the Super Bowl, including me, knew about, what happened, and congratulations. But at the time the Super Bowl happened, the Kansas City Chiefs are kind of like the inevitable final boss, of course. 2-time Super Bowl champions, trying to do something that no team in the Super Bowl era has done, which is winning 3-peat in a row. And they get every single lucky break it can happen. To the point of so many fans, not Kansas City Chiefs fans, but so many fans around the NFL, just feels exhausted. Just feels so tired of this team. Winning all the time. And they're not just impressive wins. They're just squeakers. Absolute squeakers of wins. To the point of when the Super Bowl happened, and my hearts go out to all the people in New Orleans, into Los Angeles, and to Washington, and all these other people, to all the people who are watching. My grandmother is praying for you guys. I'm probably praying for you guys, so shout out to them. The point when we go into the Super Bowl, when I watch the Super Bowl, is that the Kansas City Chiefs is going to win the Super Bowl pretty much easy. It doesn't matter how close the game is. They will figure it out, and Chiefs will win the Super Bowl, and everybody will feel nauseated for the rest of our lifetimes. What did happen is that the Eagles just beat the absolute crap out of them. The scoreline ended 40-22 in the Eagles, but it doesn't felt close. The game was over at 34-0. It was an absolute shutout. The offense did fine. Saquon Barkley didn't do much. Jalen Hurts did great. He did great. But the defense, man, that defense of the Eagles was absolutely lights out. Kind of like the carbon copy of how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Chiefs in their win in the Super Bowl. You just make Patrick Mahomes human. You just make him scramble around, put some pressure on the put some pressure on the offensive line, and just beat the absolute top out of him. And that's what happened. And you have to credit the Eagles. You have to tip your hat and saying the Eagles deserve to win that game. 100%. No problem. Now, the Super Bowl that I talked about is the same thing that applies to the LEC for the last few years. Going into the LEC winter this year, everybody knew that G2 was going to win. Yes, they changed their lineup just a little bit. Yes, they had Scubon and Labrov to their team, but they still have Caps and Broken Blade and Hans Sama, and they still look like the best team in the world. And I think many of the LEC fans are feeling a little fatigue, feeling like a little G2 fatigue, because everyone knows not only G2 can win the LEC easy as 1, 2, 3, but also we know that G2 can compete well internationally against some of the best Asian teams. Look at MSI, for example. And look at Worlds the last 2 years, when they were like one series away from even making the quarterfinals, only to lose to BLG twice over. So we knew that G2 could compete internationally. And even if we send like Fnatic or like any other team, they will be like absolute crap. So right now, when we think about the LEC, we think about G2 and their inevitability and their dominance and in March. That even the regular season doesn't feel well. That even the regular season, that it doesn't matter. Once G2 gets to like best of 3, best of 5 playoffs, it's over. And even the first time they met against K Corp, you know, they break them in half. They break the twig. And G2 went to the finals. And yes, while K Corp did eventually make it to the grand finals, everybody knew that G2 was going to win this whole series. Like, I didn't get to watch that series. I think I was in Nantucket at that time, and I was in Auntie Pam's house. Hello, Auntie Pam. Hello. I'll say hi to Auntie Pam and Tony, of course. Hello, guys. Wonderful house, and thank you for being in my company for the last few weeks. You are godsend. I was watching. I only watched the highlights. I didn't watch the full game. And I was thinking to myself at the time, G2 is going to win this whole series. It's going to be 3-0, or K Corp would probably win a game and win the whole thing anyways, or it's going to be a close thing and G2 is going to win. I do not see a K Corp team with the most hyped up rookie in Kalist, a really good rookie in Vladdy, a former G2 player who by the way was talked as a system player, of course, a top lane who by the way played for some decent teams in T1 and DK, of course, but never proved themselves in Europe, and a support that feels like a mute to them. Like, I just don't feel like Targamas, Kalist, Vladdy, Kana, and jungler. Yike, thank you, Yike. I kind of spaced out a little bit. Yike. I just don't feel like this Common Corp team, can win. And I did mention about that in my video about Common Corp, about this team and the rise and Kometo's rise and all that kind of stuff. I did talk about that, and I got some little bit of love from the French fans. The sane ones, not the crazy ones, not the crazy K Corp fans. I hope I'll keep you in good praises. But last year at this time, they were awful. They were 10th place team. They had Yamato Cannon, of course. They had Bo in their team. And they just look awful. They look awful again in the 10th place. And they did make improvements. They did make improvements last year, but it kind of fell too late. And, that fan base, that crazy little nationalism fan base, which I'm going to step back from the K Corp a second. I feel like right now the LEC is just too much nationalized fan base and not much like team fan base. It almost feels like right now you are not supporting K Corp, you're supporting France as a whole. The same way you're not supporting Movistar Riders, you're supporting Spain, of course. And maybe for better or for worse, it's okay, but it just feels like it's not my LEC like we have like years ago. I don't know, my perception has changed. But back to K Corp. So here they are in year 2 of the LEC project. A team that has been knocking on the door for the winning LFL titles and EMEA matches and never get to the LEC. And finally they made the LEC. And the first year they were awful. They were decent in the last couple of stages, but they were awful. And they have a new team, a hyped up rookie that everyone, including France, put them on the cover of Equipped for everybody to see. And I was thinking to myself, I don't think K Corp are ready for like a championship chase. Maybe I'll give them like spring and summer, of course, for them to happen. But I'm just not ready for that K Corp championship run. Like, I'm not ready for K Corp to be an LEC champions. Not against the best team ever in G2. Even if J2 were to make changes to every other team other than Caps, I still have G2 to win. And that's been the perception about LEC for like years. After they won like all 4 of those titles last year, that's become the perception about the LEC. That G2 is going to win the whole thing. They're going to go to internationals. They're probably going to be fine. They're going to be making to finals. And then, you know what? Yada, yada, yada. And then the matchup happened. And yes, by G2's hubris, they were awful. Especially in drafting, of course. And mostly Lebrov. But oh my goodness, was K Corp amazing. Like the last time I see a team go toe-to-toe with G2, look them in the eye, and absolutely beat the living top about them was Rogue in 2022 when they go on to beat Fnatic in G2. They became K Corp has now become the second team in LEC history to beat Fnatic in G2 and route to their first ever LEC title. And they do it so good. Like after the Fnatic series in which they were so close to like collapsing and then kind of win, I felt like I just don't know if K Corp have anything left, especially against G2. But I was wrong. Holy cow, I was wrong. That Kana Nar at the end was incredible. Vladdy on the Victor was amazing. Kalist did okay. I think he was the worst performer on that team, which speaks to how much this K Corp team looks so good, even without their star AD carry performing that well. And holy jeez, that was an amazing performance by K Corp. And they deserve their flowers. They deserve their reign. And no hysterics. They're not rookies. They have Yike and Targamas and Kana. They're experienced players. But for this organization in year 2 to go in there and topple the establishment. Like, remember, when Rogue won the LEC title, it took them years and years and years. It took them, 3 years? From 2019 until 2022, it took them 4 years and so many heartbreaks to finally make it. This is year 2. This is only their 4th split, and they finally achieved something that Fnatic have never done ever in the LEC era, and that's win an LEC title. And they do it amazingly. They do it clean. They do it incredibly well. Zoning off the objectives, doing fine, making decent individual plays. They were great, and I'm proud of them. I'm kind of proud of them. And you know, as an LEC fan, and I know G2 fans are kind of like salty right now. There's some salty guys. If you're Europe, don't you want another team other than G2 to compete well internationally and showcase that the LEC is just not a one-team region? Like, look at Ligue 1 right now. Ligue 1 is like a PSG montage right now. They just slapped the ever-living of Marseille, and they're 19 points clear, and they're probably going to win the whole thing by a country mile. And nobody's watching that league because, oh, by the way, PSG is beating everybody. Not everybody, but PSG is just dominating everybody to the point of like, what's the point of watching this league? It's not competitive. It's not fun. And G2 winning another title would be like, you know, it's fine because G2 are being good, but it's just like they just can't keep getting away with it every single time. Like in summer, of course, in which Fnatic choked them, just handed the title to G2 on 3 separate occasions. It just makes me feel like the summer finals were kind of like LEC's. It's kind of like the summer finals was kind of like the magnum opus of the G2 fatigue right now. The season finals were kind of like extended it further, but it was like summer that feels like I'm done with this region. I'm done. G2's gonna win every single one. I'm just done with this region. And that's fine. That's your opinion. And you listen, that's fine if you do not want to watch this league because G2 are winning every single time. And that's a knock. And listen, that's not a knock on Dylan Falco and G2 because G2 are doing what G2 has to do: win the LEC. I don't care if your region is weak. Everybody is. We're coming in to win the LEC. That's fine with you. But my goodness, does K Corp came in here with a different team and a different set plan and absolutely make Caps look human. Caps did not do anything in this game. He did virtually nothing in this game. Vladdy, the rookie, just put him down, and it was so phenomenal. It was so refreshing to see a rookie mid laner, a hyped up rookie ADC, go into a national event and just feel like they don't have to worry about what people might say that, hey, this is not a G2 team, this is not G2, I'm worried about this team. No, they just gotta go out there and be fine. And yes, I know First Stand is not the being, and it's not a tournament that you want to measure, of course, in terms of like, are K Cup good to compete internationally? And that's fine, it's not the best tournament to do, but I think K Corp did fine in that tournament. Like, they were okay in some parts. Like, Kalis did okay. Vladdy did fine. Yike was not good. Kana was horrible in that finals, of course. But let's be honest, any team, including Top Esports, would have lost to Honda Life Esports, and I would be like, all right, don't feel bad. I don't feel bad about at all. And of course they do lose some games to CFO, which makes this whole feel like I don't think Common Corp are there yet in terms of like doing well internationally against some of the bigger teams. Because of course they did lose to CFO 3 times over, including nearly choking that entire series away when they were impressive and were up 2-0. Like at that point I was thinking, okay, I think Honda Life Esports are going to win the final, but I just want to know, can K Corp at least get a game out of it? At least make it as a series. And they did. They did make it a series. And then, of course, Honda Life beat the absolute doors out of them. So it doesn't matter anymore. But of all the finals that Europe has been there for the last, like, a few years, I feel like 2018 and 2019, when LEC made the finals, it was kind of like they were so close and they could have won the trophy, and it felt like a missed opportunity for them. And then for the last few years, it's been like G2 getting in there, and even G2 themselves have not performed well. And and by the way, G2 have not even made it past quarters, by the way, in Worlds for the last several years. And it almost feels like a one-team region, and a few teams making it, but they did not do well. The only decent team other than G2 that done well internationally was Mad Lions back in 2021. And Rogue back in 2022, but that's just like an exception to the rule. And also Mad Lions in 2021, World 2021 as well, but those are the exceptions to the rule. So yes, the format can be flawed, and yes, this tournament doesn't mean anything much in the grand scheme of things, and yes, it could be skewed, but for an LEC team to make a finals for the first time in 6 long years, it's kind of the equivalent of like Newcastle fans finally winning a trophy after 70 years. That pain of knowing that you haven't been good for so long. And I'm not saying that LEC is a good region. It's kind of like the LTA of like Europe. It's not as credible as like the LCK and the LPL, which I'm going to accept. I'm going to accept that Europe is not the best region ever. I'm just going to accept that. We were never great for the last couple of years, especially this decade. But for an LEC team to make finals, I don't care what many people think about it. That, to me, and to some LEC fans, is good. It's good enough. I know it's not something that you should be... It's something to be excited about, considering that K Corp are just not a good international team as yet. But for a team that is not named G2, that put up some really decent international performances and actually beat Honda Life Esports in a few games, so especially the ones that Honda Life just give it away for like charity, for them to perform decently well and for this fan base, this chaotic fan base, of course, which I'm not gonna say that they're like the T1 of LEC, which is saying something, better or for worse. But for this fan base, this organization, this team to make their first international final, it makes you feel like if you're LEC right now, what is the ceiling for this team this year? And if you're the LEC fan, it makes the LEC this year all the more intriguing. Because now, of course, you got home stands, of course, and trust me, guys, K Corp home stand is going to be, woo! It's going to be wild, man. It's going to be a wild atmosphere in that K Corp home stand. But it also makes the LEC fandom just rethink a little bit and just feels like I don't have to watch, like, I don't have to, you know, be like a fan of like G2 winning all the time. And G2 could win another LEC splits, of course. But if K Corp can put up similar or better performance at LEC and do well in internationally tournament, then the perception of LEC is kind of like we might send two good teams to MSI. And if we continue to perform well, if Fnatic can do well, if Movie Star Riders can do well, we might send four decent good teams at Worlds. And you know what? That will not be bad for LEC fan. That will not be bad for the LEC. That will not be bad for the LEC. Like, we're not asking to win, like, Worlds or anything. We're just asking to not be as bad as many people think. We're just asking you to be fine. And you did fine, K Corp. They did fine. This team did fine. They did okay in some parts. So at least you can just say, I'm proud of them. I think they did okay for their first international tournament and to get rid of the stigma that, like, G2 are like the only good team that could beat internationally. I think K Corp can do that as well. It's going to take a lot of work, or it's a lot of tweaking, but I think they could do work. I think they'll be fine. So good on them. And last but not least, Honor Life Esports. I just have nothing to say about Honor Life Esports. Just dominate the whole competition. Nothing much to say, of course, other than the fact that the LCK are just so good, so good right now. Just absolutely so good. Like, Honor Life Esports are kind of like the best team in the world right now. They were the surprise darlings in the LCK when everybody thought in that, you know, Genji will go golden roll on them. And shout out to Ox, who, by the way, the only person who picked Honor Life Esports to win that series. He was faithful, and they did. And by the way, the exact same scoreline, by the way. Honor Life Esports won, and then they did okay at Worlds, but now with Zika being a monster, and in a really controversial sense, kind of like the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade, Zeus going from T1 to Honor Life. I don't care what many people think, the contract situation and all kind of stuff. He looks good. Peanut was fine, and he looks impressive. And right now, I'm going to say this. I'm not saying that Honor Life Esports is going to go Golden Road or something, because there are different leagues and, of course, different formats, and maybe the Golden Road will be hard. But I'll tell you what. Holy cow. Does Honor Life Esports look great. And Zika looked like a monster. Like, remember 3 years ago, Zika just came here out of nowhere and shocked the world and and he was phenomenal for that surprisingly good DRX team that won the whole thing. If I give an MVP for that tournament, I give it to Zika 100% for his incredible ballsiness, especially that, you know, Silas in that game 5 versus EDG. That was phenomenal, of course. And he still, and yes, he's have not done well for the last couple of years. Maybe I was thinking to myself that, okay, he was a product of an miraculous team. But now he come from Honor Life Esports, and he was marvelous. He was unbelievably well. Especially that Silas again. It was like, man, oh man, that dude can ball. And like I said, I have nothing much to say about Honor Life Esports. They won this whole thing by a country mile, of course. But it makes the LCK feels like they're now 4 good teams right now. T1, Genji, DK, and Honor Life. And if these 4 teams can kind of maintain their level, although you can say that Genji have not looked great, and T1 looked iffy, but fine, but Then again, this is what happens when you replace Zeus with Duran. And then you got DK who are good, but they're just not yet in Live's levels. I think right now Live are like not up way above the LCK threshold, but they're kind of like they're really, really good. They're really good at League of Legends right now. Especially the fact that we're going to do Fearless for the rest of the year. They might be good in this whole Fearless thing. And they got the depth to do it. They got the champion depth to do it. They got the players who got good hands to do it. They look like a scary team going to MSI. Which, by the way, they qualified themselves and another LCK team to go through by winning the whole thing. So, the question remains, can Live Esports do what Gen G did not do last year? And go on a golden road and dominate? The answer to that question is honestly no. But are they good enough to be like one of the best teams in the world and leave their mark in there by doing well in by winning MSI and winning Worlds? I say they can do that. I think they could. But the problem is that T1 at Worlds, man, they got that vice grip. They got that vice grip at that Worlds thing with Faker and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be hard to do. But if they can maintain that level, and if they can improve, because if I were them, maintaining it is hard. If they can improve their level, and with all the other teams around them improve theirs, LCK is a watchable league right now. Oh my goodness. Even the bottom tier teams are kind of like decent. Like, right now, what are you going to watch in the LTA? The LTA is kind of like, The LEC is fine, of course, and it's K Corp, Movie Stars, Fnatic, and G2 are good. And then LPL is kind of like the BLG and, to a lesser extent, Top Esports show. The LCK is kind of like so deep and so good right now that it's kind of like, yeah, I can watch that league. I tried to preview all the teams for the LCK Cup tournament, but I kind of like faded off, of course. But I'll tell you this. The road to MSI tournament they're going to have is going to be absolutely a banger. It's going to be absolutely going to be a banger. And when Live Esports finally get the monkey off their back after so many years and finally winning LCK tournaments and now winning international tournaments, tournaments, by the way, it just makes you feel like, man, Live Esports is a scary team. It's gonna be they're a scary team to watch. So, yeah, I have not as much to say about Live Esports. They were overall the best team in the tournament. You could put any LCK team and it could still win the whole thing, But Live Esports just showcased why they are the best team in the world right now. They won LCK on standard drives, and now they're doing it on Fearless. And now that Fearless is going to be a thing, it's going to be interesting how Live Esports will do for the rest of the year. And I think with that should conclude my thoughts about the first stand. I think overall this was a okay tournament. It's a showcase of Fearless, but it's not like the biggest tournament in the world with MSI and Worlds coming up. It's okay. It should do a little tweaking, of course. It should add more teams. But for a tournament that will showcase how Fearless can work, even though many people are on the fence about it, and even though many people don't like it, I think it's fine. I think it's a fine 7-day tournament that showcase what Fearless is about, and showcase that there are other teams other than the established elite, like K Corp and CFO and Hana Life, to showcase that we don't have to rely on the T1s in the world or the G2s to make this tournament decent. They earn the right to be here. And this is not to say like, Team Liquid, the Top Esports sucks, they should not be here. No, they won their tournament, they won the LPL, they earned their right to be here. It's just that internationally, they're just garbage. That's just it, plain and simple. So, I think this tournament is okay. And then now that I'm back to my familiar surroundings in Jamaica, I am not making any promises, to be honest. I am not going to be like one of those presidential candidates that, telling you that I'm going to make this thing better and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go what I feel like I wanted to go. I wanted to do what I feel like I want to do. So I'll tell you something this. I'm almost finishing my document. I'm almost finishing my script for, sadly, the top esports story about the league's doormat. And that will coming up soon. How will I present it on TikTok and Instagram and all kind of stuff? That will mean figuring out. But that will be another long, winded format. And by the way, I'm talking to like an hour and 20 minutes. Jesus. This is going to be a rough one for me to put it on YouTube and hope the viewers will like it. But I hope that by doing more long form things, by doing some shorthand content and all kind of stuff, that I can just grow. I mean, let's be honest, I'm not the most socialized person in the world in most cases. I don't go on Facebook or Twitter that much because it's a cesspool of negativity and horribleness, but I'm just going to try my best to like see if I can be more open, of course. I'll try my best. And if I do that, that's great. If I don't, that's okay with me. I don't care about numbers. I just care about like how my videos will do and all that kind of stuff. So, with that being said, I thank you all for watching this whole thing. Happy St. Patrick's Day, or belated St. Patrick's Day to you. And happy March Madness, everybody. I heard the tournament is starting in about a couple of minutes. It's just only the first 4 games, but college basketball March Madness is back. It's here. I'm gonna watch virtually all of it, and I'm gonna enjoy all of it with my own 2 eyes. So have a good day. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.